Hi, Zizaran here with another Harvest build guide, this time featuring Spellslinger Fireball. This was very heavily requested after the big buff to Fireball. And why Fireball and Spellslinger? Well, it's because Fireball uses the damage effectiveness, so anything that has like flat added to spells so much, and that's what Spellslinger is all about. So that's why we're making this guide. However, I want to issue a warning in the start of the video saying that this is entirely experimental. I did do a test run character real quick to like level 42 with some janky stuff and did Kitava. It felt pretty great. I have no idea how it feels endgame, and a little bit like in the start of Spellslinger, it feels a little janky as well. That's with the older values, so it should be a little bit better. But yeah, no idea if this is actually an amazing build. So it's just that so many people really wanted this. So I was like, how would I do it if I was going to? Kind of guide. Warning, can't guarantee that this one is going to kill Awakener, but it should be pretty great clear speed. So with that said, it's the same as normal, point by point. Again, make sure you watched my build guide thing, like the introduction to Path of Building for how we use it, because we do use it quite a lot more than other people. I based this off the Volatile Dead DD Spellslinger one and then just tried to make it a little bit faster. So early, and this is something I've tried, I did Fireball with the LMP and Fork. So lesser multiple projectiles and Fork. Tried then having Firestorm for single target and then also Wave of Conviction. So 3 different spell slingers on 4 links, and they were fine. You're a little bit low on mana. You can like remove one of the support gems here and there. It depends how much you want to use movement abilities or if you're fine with just running. So a little bit of choice there. And I did try Armageddon Brand instead of Wave of Conviction, which felt surprisingly good. Maybe try it instead of Firestorm as well. So play around a little bit with that. No idea what it's going to be like in maps or anything like that with decent gems. The clear speed was pretty nice. So you basically have like the Fireball with Fork mopping up all the whites, and then you have like the blue and yellow monsters and uniques are killed with your Firestorm Wave of Conviction setup. And Firestorm, especially really nice single target damage when you're stacking it in one spot. Leveling exactly the same. I did basically Orb of Storms until level 24 with just like the normal arc stuff, like or Stormblast Mine, that kind of stuff. So kind of like a racing setup early on. One of the other differences, like something like Divine Judgment early and Explosive Impact early, really, really nice. And you also do want AoE. You can also take Amplify if you want even more AoE. Now, we are an Elementalist instead of a Necro here. So very, very different ascendancy than a Necromancer. We're getting Pendulum of Destruction as the first one. Then you have Mastermind of Discord. So that does mean you need to find a way to fit Herald of Ash, which I did manage to, and we'll talk about that in a sec. And then you have the Golem nodes. And with the Golem nodes, you do become like ailment immune as well. 35% chance to avoid elemental ailment per Golem. So once you have 3, you are immune to like heat or like freeze immune, you're shock immune, and it's really nice. It's a great thing. I'll talk a little bit about the 3 different setups here. We have this one that goes all the way over here and picks up a lot more damage nodes. Still gets a decent amount of life, 180. I think this is completely without any life jewels, so still a decent amount of life and quite a lot of damage, plus elusive for even more clear speed. This should be a pretty fun, especially map, like low map clearer, where you're running around. Think similar to Valspark, you're just running around with your Fireball Fork and just killing everything. Should be really, really fun. Here we have another one, pre-cluster jewel, but loads more tank. We're up to 209 life without life on jewels. Here, 118 points with cluster jewels. So we'll talk a little bit about these. Disorienting display. If you want to use this, then you need to use something like Flame Dash. You need to make sure that you are using a fire skill, because Frenzy is not a fire skill. So even though it looks like you're casting loads of fire skills, but them being triggered from Frenzy is not actually casting. So Flame Dash is enough to keep this quite often. Cremator, just high fire damage, and then ignited enemies are destroyed on kill. Smoking Remains, 35% fire damage, and then 10% chance for a smoke cloud. I think you can get Smoking Remains here as another 35% instead, just for another nice fire damage. And then Cooked Alive, these are really, really good and do stack with itself. So if you did get multiple, if you do end up doing a second cluster drool or something like that, then that is an option. The life one here is like Fetal and Flat Life. Really, really nice. Evil Eye. There's another good option here instead of Evil Eye, which is Culling Strike against cursed enemies. Master of Fair is Unnerved, which is 10% more damage against cursed enemies, and then another Fatal Cluster. Definitely more softcore viable than hardcore, and could be a bit of a struggle against even early act bosses. Again, didn't have much of a struggle myself up to Kitava, and Kitava is pretty easy as well. But I could see it, especially with that decoy totem being more of a struggle. So I do want to warn a little bit and make sure that this isn't something that I'm 100% sure can be a great starter, because I haven't tried it enough. So we have 4 golems here. I would use flame first, then lightning, then stone, then chaos. Should be pretty nice. Keeping them alive can be a bit of an issue. So you could try to fit in something like minion life or meat shield or the minion res thing. Then you might, like, when adding more things, you might need unset rings. Early gear, do remember how Spellslinger works, which is that any attack damage of your wand gets turned into damage to spells. So that means that since you can get so high, like flat rolls to attacks, for example with fire or lightning or cold, these will get turned into flat spell damage. Obviously, we prefer fire, so an ideal wand would be high flat fire to attacks, high flat fire to spells, and percentage fire damage, because that's pretty much all we're scaling. +1 gems, definitely not bad either. All the other gear here, very, very like basic starter gear with just life on it. Do remember to get resist capped as early as you can. And the bandit for this build, skill point. Endgame wise, there's a lot of examples here. The trigger wand here, which later lets us use, for example, Wave of Conviction in that, which is great damage endgame. Early on when we have less links, that's something we spell sling. But yeah, this is gotten from Unveiling in Betrayal, and it's like item level 75 or something. It is a bit of a pain to get yourself. We can use cast when I was taken until then. Shield. This is a great example of a shield. One example of something that can be like pretty best in slot here on a helmet would be using a horror essence. I don't think you're going to be able to use like an influence type to get socketed gems are supported by, because reservation is going to be a big issue with this build. So this is free as well, which is very important for Spellslinger. Socketed gems deal 30% more elemental damage. So when you do put your Firestorm in here, it's going to get that 30% more multiplier without increasing the reservation. We don't have a great way of shocking, so I don't think Impulse is great here. The Crusader Explosion chest is quite nice. And then just like really, really tanky chest like this with life as extra ES and also percentage life. Amulet, getting Fire Leech from either Incursion and stuff like that could be really nice. So Alva will drop these sometimes, or Alva related things. +1 Fire Gems or +1 Int Gems as well is really, really best in slot on your Amulet. Unset ring here, it depends a little bit. You might be able to use 2 stones, but if unset rings come in handy so much a lot on Spellslinger builds when you do end up with a lot of sockets. A flammability ring, also something you really, really want. You also in this setup want to use Frenzy and with Inspiration, because we want to try to reserve as little mana as possible. Inspiration in a Spellslinger setup on its own does nothing, because the Spellslinger setup is never using mana. Now, what that means is that we need to have a Frenzy setup. So here we have Inspiration with Frenzy. So because Frenzy, which you keep at level 1 to help with Dex requirements, and several Dex gems might need this, that you keep them pretty low to make it easier. But when that has Frenzy and Inspiration, that 8 mana cost or whatever is going to trigger the Inspiration, and it's almost always going to be at max capacity. And the damage from that will work when they're like used in both. It just doesn't care where it's getting the actual charge from, but it needs to have it. Soul Tether is getting changed from what we know. Still going to be very strong and basically gives you Slayer Overleech. So any time that your life or energy shield now drops off, it's going to instantly continue leeching instead of have to start over again. So very, very strong, even though it is getting changed a bit. So would recommend that. And that's why like some hybrid gear and ES gear is nice. Flasks are extremely important for any build, and I can never stress this enough. Chemist is the best prefix for flasks, and here we have a jade, sulfur, and a granite. You can use a basalt instead of the sulfur as well. Weiss oak is not bad. If you're not 100% sure on how that works, if you do equalize all three of your resists in like the bracket to the right, not where it says 75 or 77, but where it says like the parentheses 103 and stuff like that. If you have 103, 103, 103, or at least that they're all equal there, then you're going to penetrate and take less damage from every resist. Pantheons, I'd probably still recommend Solaris and Shakari. You can also do Arakali, and then you have, with this node, a lot easier time with shocks. You have very, very high, like, shock reduction. So that's nice. Let's do the Q&A. So, like, the popular things to solve for every build. Are there too many gems to equip? It shouldn't be. This looks easier to fit than the Volatile Dead Spellslinger, but I might have miscalculated slightly. So, you know, there are things like the dash and flame dash you could drop, but or Tempest Shield, and grabbing unset rings if you do feel socket starved. As far as mana issues go, the only thing that mana issue would ever stop you from doing them would be movement abilities. Even if you have everything completely reserved, you could even end up default attacking, and with your one, this is going to fire off all your Spellslinger stuff. Useful leveling uniques is pretty much going to be the same as for every build. There's nothing special I would really recommend. Just Tabula, Gold Rim, whatever. As far as defensive options, that is a large problem for this build that I see. Necromancer gets incredibly tanky. This one doesn't really, so more of a softcore comfortable build. It's going to be harder on hardcore. Over leveling for this build is definitely going to feel nice. As far as auras, we do have to fit Herald of Ash in this. That's the only thing we can use because Spellslinger is reserving everything else. The Herald of Ash is because it's cheaper to fit in this build, gives us more fire damage. And then you also have the fact that it, with Elementalist, is making fire damage penetrate. Rolling Flames as well is something I just realized I've almost forgot to talk about, but Rolling Flames has been reworked to now give Scorch, which is going to help with your single target damage. Scorch is basically free fire penetration instead of the Ignite, and seeing as the main point of this is not to scale the Ignite, that is going to help quite a lot there with the single target damage. So hopefully that helps solve it. Do remember that Rolling Flames is not a quest reward like the other ones, so it's a bit more of a pain to get. Biggest mechanical drawback to this build is 100% going to be the lack of tank and possible lack of single target. So do let me know if you try it at your own risk how that feels. And for the biggest financial hurdles of this build, everything looks like it should be pretty great for solo self-found. You are going to be sharing gear with a lot of like Volatile Dead Spellslingers and things like that if you are in Trade League and wanting to buy like +1 Fire Gem amulets and stuff. So obviously this is not what I'm league starting with. I am doing Volatile Dead Spellslinger because that's a guarantee. We know that's gonna be great. So if you are trying this, do let us know. Hopefully this helps, and let me know if this is something that you like where it's a little bit more you're not 100% sure guide. Let me know if that's something you guys want in the future, just so you do get to see what I would do. Good luck in Harvest. Thanks for watching. Try to die less than I do.